Good morning. My name is Ann Pearl, and I'm your worship associate today. Please rise in body or spirit and join us for our Song of Gathering, number 318 in your gray hymnal, We Would Be One.
I'm Jim Russell, the Secretary of the Board of Trustees here, and I am happy to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory in which our church building sits as the ancestral homelands of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. I have a couple of announcements. If you're interested in getting training to help in a medical emergency, whether it's here, home, or at work, we are having a training session led by the Austin Volunteer Ambulance Corps. It'll be free. The congregation here will pay for it. Please contact Rita in the next day or so to sign up and choose which date is best for you. The Arts Committee invites the congregation to bring wreaths to decorate our sanctuary for the holidays. Please bring a handmade or store-bought wreath Sunday, November 26th through Saturday, December 2nd. The Arts Committee will hang them after the service on December 3rd. This is a reminder, the Quilting Bee, for those interested in working on the congregational quilt after the coffee hour today, is going to be held. All supplies will be provided. With your help, the Social Justice Committee will be making the holidays brighter for residents of the Jan Peak House homeless shelter in Peekskill and clients of Hope's Door, a domestic violence program based in Hawthorne. Please pick up a tag or two in the fellowship hall after the service, or if you prefer, just send a check to Rita and we will shop for you. Gifts need to be returned by December 10th. And this is from your elves, Bernie and Terry. For the most up-to-date information on these topics and others, please refer to our weekly newsletter and check our website frequently. And please join us for conversation after the service. If you are present in the sanctuary, please join us for coffee and conversation in the fellowship hall behind this room. If you're watching the live stream, the link for our Zoom coffee hour can be found in the Saturday reminder in your email. If you're just recently joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us at uucroton@gmail.com with your name, and we will make sure you're added to our e-news list. Also, please remember to silence your cell phones at this time if you're here in this room. Once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
Thank you, Jim. Our guest preacher today is Karishma Neva Gottfried. She's in her first year at Union Theological Seminary in New York City and has been on the path to ministry since she was 16. Raised in the UU Fellowship of Corvallis, Oregon, and a recent graduate of Wellesley College in Massachusetts, Karishma brings her love of Unitarian Universalism with her everywhere she goes. Karishma has most recently served as campus ministry organizer for the Sanctuary Boston and runs the popular UU TikTok account at Unitarian Universalist. Folks, please welcome Karishma Gottfried.
Thank you, everyone. It's so good to be here with you this morning. I invite you to settle in wherever you are, get comfortable, close your eyes or soften them if you'd like, and take a deep breath in with me as you're able. We are gathered here today, both in this beautiful sanctuary and all around the world online, both gathered here in space and time for those watching this service later, and connected by our love for each other and our love and hope for community. Whether you come here this morning with sorrows in your heart or great joys, or a little bit of both, you are exactly where you need to be right now. You are welcome here as your full selves, leaving nothing behind. We welcome you and love you just as you are. Take another deep breath in with me together. And breathe out. Welcome. Now, I'd also love to offer a prayer. I've heard that our RE youth here have been working on a Signs of Peace project, recognizing our inherent worth and dignity and sharing that with the world. You might have seen the street side lawns this morning that have placards proclaiming care for one another, peace in over 6 languages, and the phrase, "Our futures are intertwined." Now, as Unitarian Universalists, we believe in salvation in this life. And what that means for me is the ability to not worry about what's happening after we die, or not know for sure what's happening, but know that right now in this world, we can work to make it heaven on earth and work to make this life better. And I think that's what these Signs of Peace are doing. So if you would join me in blessing these Signs of Peace, I invite you, if you're here in person or here online, to stretch your hands out facing this way, but I can't face that way because then you won't be able to hear me. The signs are out here. If you would just bless them with your love, with your hope for our future, with your hope for peace, and help us to remember that we can imagine peace in this world if only we work for it. Thank you.
And now it's time to ring bells. Will the children and their RE leaders please go into our belfry and ring the bells 8 times for our 8 principles. Our chalice reading today is by Leslie Takahashi. Here in this place of peace, may we find hope. Here in this place of connection, may we find life-giving community. Here in this place of rest, let the unrest of our hearts turn us toward justice. Here in this space made sacred by memories of connection, let us each feel ourselves part of the new that grows from the old in the spiraling unity of years. Thank you. Please join me now for our affirmation, which we will say in unison. The words are in your order of service. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. It is now time for the children to join their religious exploration classes, and we will sing them out by singing Go Now in Peace, number 413 in your gray hymnal.
Try us around up to 3 parts, once all together.
Let us now bear witness to the joys and sorrows experienced in our community. If you have a brief yet personally significant joy or sorrow that you are willing to share, please come up to the microphone and speak loudly so that everyone, including the people watching at home, can hear you. If you would prefer only to have a candle lit without speaking, please just stand or raise your hand and I will light a candle for you.
Hi, I'm Joanne Hefner, and I want to thank Ginny Stillman for yesterday. We had a wonderful workshop with ikebana, Japanese flower arranging. So I learned so much, and it was a beautiful, peaceful experience.
Hi, I'm Allie Fraze, and a few other parents and I started a Rainbow Club in Croton. We just had our first meeting about 2 weeks ago. It is for elementary age kids who identify as LGBTQ or have family or friends that do, and then for allies, and just talked a lot about like bullying prevention and how to speak up for yourself and for your friends, and it was really beautiful. And my 7-year-old came home and said it was awesome, so big thumbs up.
Good morning. I'm Carl Grimm, and I'm just sharing the urgency of housing here in Westchester County. I've been trying to place a friend who's homeless for 20 years in some kind of a place with a roof over her head, and exploring the internet and the calls, unanswered calls and stuff are kind of frustrating. So if anybody knows of any very simple housing arrangements, please let me know. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Heather Hewitt. I just wanted to share my joy that my older son, Jack, is here back from college and worshiping with us this morning.
So I actually have a joy that I would like to share as well. Last weekend, Gary and Jacqueline Simon, and Bruce Pearl and I all traveled to what seemed like the end of the earth, Watertown, New York, which I think is in the Arctic Circle. There were lots of signs, you know, that Canada was like right there, and it certainly felt like it was. But we were lucky that it wasn't snowing, so that was, everybody kept telling us how lucky we were. Anyway, we were there for a statewide theater festival. We brought a play of ours that we did over the summer in our annual, well, now re-annual, we skipped a few years because of the pandemic, One Act Festival, original plays. And the play that we brought, which some of you did see when we performed them in Ossining, won the whole thing, and got acting awards, and is now moving on to the Eastern States Festival in the spring. Very pleased. And so the play that won was called The Beauty of Numbers, and it was written by a man named Keith Whalen. So we also acknowledge at this time all the unspoken joys and sorrows held within the sanctuary of our hearts, and all those people who have yet to find a spiritual home where they too can share their joys and sorrows.
I invite you to settle into your bodies once more, to lean into stillness. That doesn't have to be stillness of your body. If you want to move around or stretch, or feel your feet on the ground, please do so. Move into a stillness of the mind, a stillness of the heart, as we think about all of our personal and communal and collective joys and sorrows that we carry with us here this morning. For the joys that we share of making art in community, both near and far, of being together with families of all ages, coming together, making a more welcoming world for our children and our children's children. For children coming home, returning to the communities that love them. For this community right here. For those of us who think differently and act differently but love the same, that we can be joyful for. And we also come with sorrows in our hearts, very many sorrows for all of the pain and hurt in this world. For those of us in our communities who don't have a safe roof over their heads or enough food to eat. For those who will hurt as the weather gets colder and the snow comes. I also want to put out a special prayer for the children of Gaza. Around 2020, the median age in Gaza was 18. And right now, Gaza is 40% of people in Gaza are 14 and younger. So a prayer for the children there, a prayer for children all over the world who are growing up in the midst of a climate crisis, in the midst of war and terror. We pray for them. We hold them in our hearts. And for all of the joys and sorrows we each bring that go unnamed but are with us in our hearts, we hold those too, knowing again that you bring your whole self to this community, and we will be here to hold all of it. Because no one is alone. And together, we can make this world a better place. Amen, and blessed be.
Our reading today is called Miracle of Morning by Amanda Gorman. I thought I'd awaken to a world in mourning, heavy clouds crowding, a society storming. But there's something different on this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. I see a dad with a stroller taking a jog. Across the street, a bright-eyed girl chases her dog. A grandma on a porch fingers her rosaries. She grins as her young neighbor brings her groceries. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more tightly tethered. Because the question isn't if we will weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn and we mend. Like light, we can't be broken, even when we bend. As one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare heroes and all employees. With families, libraries, waiters, schools, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite not in the light, but in lack thereof. For it is in loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In suffering, we must find solidarity. For it's our grief that gives us our gratitude, shows us how to find hope if we ever shall lose it. So don't ignore the pain, give it purpose, use it. Read children's books, dance alone to DJ music. Know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. From a wave of woes, our world will emerge stronger. We'll observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also those moments that make us humans kind. Let each dawn find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing in testing times, we became the best of beings. Now, if you would like to rise in body or spirit, please join us in singing number 323 in your gray hymnal, Break Not the Circle.
So the other day, I was reading an article in the New York Times about Generation Alpha. It's a good name, right? It's the newest generation, loosely defined as those born between 2010 and 2025. So some of you might have kids in that generation or grandkids. And this article was about current slang. And for the first time in my life, I had no idea what most of the terms meant. It was a really jarring moment for me. It was, proof that the world continues to turn, and it's certainly not turning around me. And then here's where I was going to try and throw in one of those Gen Alpha terms, but proving my point, it just sounded really awkward, so I'm not gonna try. Now, I'm not trying to claim that I'm old. I just turned 23 a few weeks ago. But it did get me thinking about generational differences, right? And how they also sometimes seem to get frozen in place. I feel like I still have this vision of a millennial in my head, and it's someone in their mid to late 20s eating avocado toast and sporting a side part and wondering how they'll ever be able to afford a house. But in reality, though, the oldest millennials are in their early 40s, and while the side parts and financial worries might be here to stay, the truth is that there is a new generation in between millennials and Gen Alpha coming into adulthood, Generation Z. Now, Gen Z encompasses everyone who's now in their early teens to early to mid-20s, which is a formative time of rapid identity development and, when cultivated, spiritual growth. Now, even the poem we just heard from Amanda Gorman, she's a proud Gen Zer as well. And I am too. Now, Gen Zers were born around the turn of the 21st century. We've grown up in a post-9/11 world full of school shootings, an uncertain economy, and the ever-increasing impacts of the climate crisis. We experienced extreme isolation during the formative years of social and personal development, altering our brain chemistry in ways we won't fully understand for years, and affecting the ways that we move through the world. We've grown up with the 24-hour news cycle, with access to the entire world just a click of a button or the tap of a screen away. And as a cohort, we are the least religious generation there's probably ever been. Over a third of Gen Z identifies as religiously unaffiliated. Now, if you think that I look young now, it might shock you to hear that the first time that I guest preached outside of my home congregation was the Sunday after I bridged. Now, bridging is what we call the ritual transition from youth to young adulthood, generally recognized around the same time as a high school graduation. And the attrition rate for Unitarian Universalists who bridge is staggeringly low. There aren't really any recent statistics, but the off-cited number of UUs in our congregations who were raised in this faith is 12.5%. And even as those numbers fluctuate throughout time, it's clear from both our limited data and anecdotal information that the vast majority of Unitarian Universalists do not continue to stay a part of our congregations when they grow up. Now, this has been the case for decades and generations. And as a part of the new generation of Unitarian Universalists who are growing up and out of our faith, I don't want this to keep happening. Unitarian Universalism is going through significant cultural and theological shifts in this moment in time. As a predominantly white progressive religion, Unitarian Universalists have often been self-congratulatory in the face of performative and sometimes real activism. But we've neglected to look within and confront the ways in which the culture of white supremacy has permeated all aspects of our institutions. And as our pews empty across the country and fewer people identify as religious, Unitarian Universalism must find a way to justify its existence today. We must define ourselves not in opposition to the religious traditions we come from, but the religion we want to be today. Now, a few years ago, a candidate for the UUA Board of Trustees released a campaign statement where she stated that younger and or marginalized identifying people want to take Unitarian Universalism in a profoundly different direction. And she suggested that we leave the Unitarian Universalism we were raised in and form our own branch. And she even offered up a name for us, 21st Century UUs. Now, as a younger and marginalized identifying, I'm not really sure what that means, UU, I don't want to start a new branch of our faith, and I don't want to take it in a different direction. I want to be in community with all of you and continue on the path towards liberation and justice that we have always been marching down as we continuously attempt to draw the circle wider and bend the arc of the universe towards justice. And that's why I spent last year writing an honors thesis for my undergraduate degree in religion at Wellesley on modern-day Unitarian Universalist theology, inspirationally titled 21st Century Unitarian Universalism. I mean, to be fair, that is the century we're all living in. And you know, I'm dedicated to helping Unitarian Universalism be the faith I've always expected it to be. I believe that Unitarian Universalism has the potential for a rich, deep theology that brings with it the heretical challenges of our forebears, the curiosity and reason of the Unitarians, the welcome and love of the Universalists, and the innovation and promise of what we can learn and do together as 21st century Unitarian Universalists. Now, Unitarian Universalism in 2023 looks nothing like Unitarianism or Universalism in 1923 or 1823 or any time before now. And as Octavia Butler wrote in her novel, The Parable of the Sower, the only lasting truth is change. Although every religion and denomination goes through significant changes throughout the ages, Unitarian Universalism is defined by its constant need for development. Revelation is not sealed. Unitarian Universalists believe that the search for truth and meaning is unending, and that there is always more to uncover about the universe. Because we are bound together by covenant and not creed, what makes us Unitarian Universalists is our commitments to each other, whatever those may be and however those may change over time. And one example of these changes is on a denominational level, with the ongoing conversation about our bylaws as the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. Now, in the fall of 2020, a commission of Unitarian Universalists first gathered to begin to review and revise Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, which sounds really boring, but really what it is it's the principles and the purposes of our association and its member congregations. And while our principles and purposes aren't a creed that individual Unitarian Universalists are required to follow, they are an agreement that congregations and covenanted communities adhere to as members of our larger association. Now, Article 2 was last revised in 1985, when the 7 principles as we know them today are established. Now, some congregations have gone on to adopt an 8th principle, but that is not standard across the denomination. And this new proposal changes the idea of our principles into a set of values with love at the center. You can learn more about that online. There will be plenty of stuff happening this year if you don't know already. But it'll have its final vote at next year's General Assembly in June of 2024, where a 2/3 majority vote will be required to officially adopt it. So that's on like the governance side of ways we're changing, which I think is cool. But also a lot of the changes we need to make are at local and congregational levels. They're about the real experiences that newcomers have when they walk through our doors or log on to a service online for the first time. Are they tokenized and put in all the brochures before they've even signed the membership book? Are they completely ignored and passed by as they stand against the wall during coffee hour? Do parents of boisterous children feel welcome in worship, even when their kid is making noises? And do congregants working minimum wage jobs feel included during pledge drives when they barely have enough money to make rent? Now, I don't have answers to those questions, but I hope they're ones you think about. Now, for me, besides guest preaching right now, most of my work is done outside of congregations. For the past few years, I worked with the Sanctuary Boston to build a campus ministry network among schools in the greater Boston area to support emerging adults searching for a welcoming spiritual community. And I also launched the TikTok account at Unitarian Universalist in 2020, becoming one of the first people on the social media platform to post viral videos about Unitarian Universalism. Since then, I've gotten over 17,000 likes on my videos, and there are dozens more creators, more famous than me now, sharing our faith with the world. And both of these things have allowed me to connect with people who probably wouldn't show up here on a Sunday morning, or at least they wouldn't have if not for those initial connections. I can't tell you how many comments I've received where someone says that after watching one of my videos, they looked into Unitarian Universalism and decided to go check out the nearby congregation. And I've worked with students who went to youth group regularly in high school, but never thought about going to church in college before connecting with our campus ministry program. And what I've discovered through this is that there aren't less people who need and want Unitarian Universalism. There are just less people who realize it's even an option. But I am, and all of you are proof that that doesn't have to be the case. Unitarian Universalism today is both unitary and universal. It can acknowledge our shared connections while uplifting each individual's experiences with the sacred and profane. Its lack of creed allows for a variety of truths to emerge and to be discovered, while its covenant brings us together in a shared search for those truths. By understanding our positionality in a world that becomes further polarized every day, in a world where religious is by default often shorthand for religiously and politically conservative, it is imperative that liberal religions have a theology that can withstand the onslaught of conservative criticism. I believe in the life-changing, life-saving power of Unitarian Universalism. But I believe that it can only be those things if we know what we are talking about and how to talk about it. Now, I'm not expecting you all to leave here today and start posting videos on TikTok, although that would be extremely cool if you did, and let me know so I can watch them. But I'm asking you that if you also believe in this life-changing, life-saving power of Unitarian Universalism, to be the best ambassador you can be, by not only living out those UU values, but by sharing them with the world. Now, Unitarian Universalists often have a difficult relationship with evangelism, and for good reason. Now, many evangelists of whatever religion or sect approach conversations about religion with the perspective that mine is the best one and you should be a part of it. And I'm not asking anyone to do that. But I invite you to approach it from the perspective of, hey, this thing has been really wonderful in my life. Maybe it could be wonderful in yours too. After all, the word evangelism comes from the Greek evangelion, which simply means the good news. I think we could all do with a little more good news these days. And I believe in the good news of Unitarian Universalism, don't you? You know, we need all kinds of welcome. Inside our congregations, making sure every person feels welcome and included before they even enter our sanctuaries. And outside our congregations, on the streets and in the courtrooms, fighting for justice and equity for all, in the workplace and in daily life, showing compassion and open-mindedness to those we encounter, and in the virtual world, which is here to stay, through TikTok and Facebook and Zoom, reminding us of our interconnectedness no matter where we are in the world. And most importantly, Unitarian Universalism for the next generation doesn't mean that other generations should be left behind. Sunday mornings are one of the last truly multi-generational spaces we have. This is all about drawing the circle wider, not closing people out. So while we might use QR codes for donations and stream our services online, those are just some ways to bring more people into our community. You can still drop some cash into an offering plate or show up in person if that's what works for you. We are all living here in the 21st century. And it's time to welcome the next generation into our faith, not just as young people who are the future of Unitarian Universalism, but as valued members of our communities who are right here, right now. It's time to find new ways to invite the next generations into our congregations and truly make them feel welcome when they're here. Unitarian Universalism in this new millennium is both something entirely new and innovative, and also what we've been doing all along, bringing our values of radical welcome and courageous love to everyone who needs a little bit more of it in their lives. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing our next hymn, number 1051 in your teal hymnal, We Are.
This one has some tricky repeats. Let's do the short one at the beginning and the short one at the end, and straight through it.
Each week we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in the spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before, those who in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Each month, our collection is shared with a community organization. This month, we share with American Friends of the Parents Circle Families Forum. The Forum is a joint Israeli-Palestinian organization made up of more than 700 bereaved families. Their common bond is that they have lost a close family member to the conflict. But instead of choosing revenge, they have chosen a path of reconciliation. For more information, please visit their website, parentscirclefriends.org. You can make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. From your homes, you can make your donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter or by visiting our website, uuhudsonvalley.org. Or if you prefer, you can always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Please join me now in the dedication of the offering. The words are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. Please join me now in extinguishing the chalice. The words once again are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Beloveds, go out into the world today and bless it with your love. Find ways to draw the circle wider, to embrace newness and change, and remain steadfast in our shared call for justice. This broken and beautiful world needs all of us. Go in peace.
Oh, I think I have money.
But I left them in my car.
Okay, no worries.
Are you leaving like right away?
No,
Or you
no,
coffee
yeah,
hour?
I can go get it. Okay, great.